Oh, welcome to Meaningful Mornings. What distinguishes a seeker from a searcher is Shraddha. A seeker believes, a searcher believes, and a seeker has faith. What distinguishes a searcher from a seeker has belief, and a seeker has faith. Shraddha enables one to engage in bhakti. What I have faith in, I become dedicated towards, I depend on. Bhakti enables jnana. Whatever I love, I want to know more about. Not intellectually, but to internalize this. And bhakti evolves to, jnana evolves to bhava. Bhava is a feeling, it is being. Shraddha, bhakti, jnana, bhava. We all have Shraddha. How do we evolve this to bhakti? Because that's the focus of Meaningful Mornings, and definitely this portion of Bhagavad Gita, it is through manana. The more reflective one becomes, the more one naturally depends on that which is immaterial, depends on themselves. I'd asked all of you to engage in manana on what does God or Gita or Guru mean to you. This was an exercise in growing our Shraddha to Bhakti. Some of the amazing reflections that you wrote about. One was about how this light you now feel inside of you is like a shield, protecting you from change. Another seeker wrote that God, Gita, Guru has come to rescue them when they needed it most. When no one else could rescue them, they rescued them. Another seeker wrote, God, Gita, Guru never gives up on them. Though a seeker may give up, God, Guru, Gita never gives up on them. Another one of you wrote that God, Gita, Guru fills up all of your spaces with Bhagavad. You write about it, you say it, you think it. And another seeker wrote that God is the sadhya, that means the ends. Gita is the sadhana, the means. And Guru is the sadhaka. Usually we describe ourselves as the sadhaka or seeker, but the guru is the one who's holding our hand as we're seeking. I share this with all of you because in our lives, in our year, we have 4 birthdays. Our 3rd birthday is the birthday of our guru. Our 4th birthday is the birthday of this seeker. All of you offered your manana as a gift to my master, perhaps your master. If you remember last year, many of you wrote many reflections for my birthday, and that was lovely. But what you wrote this year was more lovely. The birthday of one's master is exponentially more purposeful than the birthday of oneself. And I feel this authentically and deeply. I'm reading to you what I wrote to Puja Swami Tejo Mayananda and what he wrote back to all of you. This is my message on behalf of all of us. Hari Om to dearest Puja Guruji. How is Guruji? I pray Guruji is well, especially post-procedure. I miss Guruji. The last time I was in Guruji's physical presence was December 2019 to study Aparoksha Anubhuti. I'm hoping to be with Guruji in December 2023, post the Chinmay Inspiration Yatra 15. I love Guruji. In March 2020, to help me and others cope with COVID, I organized an 18-minute live daily virtual satsanga. Over the past 710 mornings, 250 seekers have studied stress management, purpose of yoga, Jivan Sutrani, introduction to Mahabharata. The highlight of our satsanga has been studying a verse a day of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Today we completed chapter 8, verse 7. In our satsanga, a daily sadhana is encouraged. As we are in the bhakti section of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, yesterday's sadhana was to reflect on what does God Gita Guru mean to me? To Puja Gurudev, whose commentary all read together, and to Puja Guruji, whose insights all learn together, to our masters we offer our manana. What all of you wrote. I attached this as a document. Reflecting on Guruji at Sandipani, upon the completion of the 13th Vedanta course on September 15th, 2007, Vinayaka Chaturthi, I had symbolically offered Guruji 100 Canadian dollars as dana for my dakshina. 15 years later, on August 31st, 2022, I will offer Guruji 15,000 US dollars as my nitya dana for my nitya dakshina, offering immeasurable respect, love, reverence, Vivek. Guruji's response. My name is used. This is for all of us. Dear Vivek, Hari Om. Thank you very much for your email of the 1st of July. By God's grace, I am keeping well. I appreciate the way you are inspiring many seekers to study our scriptures. That is great. The way you raise funds for our various projects is also praiseworthy. I will slowly read all the seekers' reflections you have forwarded to me. Please convey my appreciation and best wishes to all of them. My greetings to all at home with Prem and Om, Tejo Mayananda. We are all bhagya. We are bhagya to be able to engage in expressing our shraddha. In Bhagavad Gita's verses 5 through 7, Sri Krishna is encouraging us to think. Think of divinity every day. If you do this, in verses 8 through 11, he's encouraging us to contemplate. Contemplate on divinity. If you don't think of divinity in your day, you cannot contemplate on divinity in your morning or whenever you practice. Contemplation is not a hack. There's no such notions of shortness, shortcut, short time, short course, etc. The thinking leads to the contemplating. In verse 11, Sri Krishna highlights upasana. Upasana means to sit near. That is to immerse yourself more in thinking and contemplating on divinity. When you're thinking of divinity, you will engage in vitaraga, which means free from attachment, which more practically means independence. If you're thinking of divinity, you're feeling that. What else do you need? And all that does come to you will not be what you need. It's just a want. Shri Krishna also shares brahmacharya. Brahmacharya means non-indulgence. To be able to think and contemplate requires energy, enthusiasm, empathy. But if I'm always drained, tired, and frustrated and dejected, there cannot be thinking and contemplating. With vitaraga and brahmacharya, then one is prepared. Upasana is a form of preparing. Prepared for what? Shri Krishna says, sangrahena. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to guide you in a simple way. That simple way is Shri Krishna teaching us, guiding us about Om. Om is a simple way, a simple path, a simple practice for us to think and contemplate more on divinity. What you do every day becomes your development becomes your dhyana. And if all of this is directed towards divinity, your dhyana will evolve to you rediscovering divinity. Verse number 11. Sarvadvarani samyamya manohridi nirudhya cha murdhyadhyatmana pranam astito yogadharanam. Sarva, all. Dwarani, doors, gates, openings. How many of you have locked your door, your front door? You have physically, but you've done so more deeply with your mouth also, correct? As I'm sharing, you've closed your mouth to open your mind. You're not eating, you're not drinking, you're not talking. The doors that Sri Krishna is referring to is all of our senses, the mouth being one of them. Manaha hridi nirudhyacha. So the senses, they are all closed. Closed here doesn't mean controlled, but directed. And the mind is restrained from the senses. It is kept in one's heart. It is kept close to oneself. This is the translation. Here's the implication. When we immersed ourselves in dhyana yoga, and for those who missed this, those videos are continuing to be released. We're nearing the release of day 54. I'd given you 5 S's. How to practice dhyana yoga? Make sure these 5 S's are followed. They are space, seat, senses, sentiments, and surrender. This first line relates to senses and sentiment, singular. All of our senses are to be directed. In Sanskrit, this is called Dhamma. D-A-M-A, not D-U-M-B-A. Dhamma. Dhamma. And how do you know that you're doing this? You become more balanced. Those whose senses are not directed, they live in an imbalanced way. Then relating to the mind, this is the first sentiment. That's why I said singular, that the mind is directed, particularly with chanting. In Sanskrit, this is called shama. Dhamma is needed, shama is needed. How do you know you have shama? You are more focused. You're all catching me. How can I prepare to think and contemplate more on the divine? I have to nurture more balance and more focus. Then the next line, mudni adhaya atmana pranam. This is a technical sharing, which essentially says that your breath has to be directed towards the higher. Mudni means your skull and so on. The implication of this relates to the second part of the sentiment, which is your intellect. The intellect is to be directed. Directed where? See, the skull is higher. It's the highest part of who I am. But here the higher is not the skull. The higher means divinity. In Sanskrit, this is called uparama. How do you know that you have such an understanding? You're more reflective. I've shared with all of you many times 3 ways you know you are growing. That is thinking, contemplating about divinity, more balanced, more focused, more reflective. Astitaha yoga dharanam, then engage in yoga. This yoga is the contemplating. He's already taught us about thinking. Shri Krishna is feeling that we're not contemplating, so he's offering upasana, ways for us to be preparing for contemplating. This is the sentiment. The surrender, the surrender. The 5th S, to surrender, not the body or the mind or the intellect, but to surrender the ego. More to be shared. The coming verses all relate to this upasana. From inspiration to application, your application yesterday was to write the 7 signs of attachment. Here's one of them. A sign of attachment is you are unable to compartmentalize. Suppose you broke a dish before you joined me for Meaningful Mornings. As I'm speaking, if you're thinking about that dish, then you're attached to that dish. You're unable to let it go. Don't we do that with people? She said this, he did this. It's all attachment. Your application for 1 week now is to transition your likita japa to japa without an instrument. That means no more writing. only using your hand, Om Ramaya Namaha, Om Ramaya Namaha, Om Ramaya Namaha, or just your mouth. When I jog, Om Ramaya Namaha 1, Om Ramaya Namaha 2, Om Ramaya Namaha 3. So from externally engaging japa to internally engaging japa, make this transition. That is your application. Shanti, Shanti, Shantihi. Be safe, be sound, be serene, be joy.